What if I told you the most powerful prison on earth has no guards, no gates, and no walls, just smiles, likes, and compliments? It doesn't look like a prison. It looks like a perfect feed. It sounds like a harmless, "How are you?" to which you respond, "All good," while something inside you is quietly falling apart. This prison is made of image, curated, cropped, filtered, and millions are trapped in it without even knowing. Every morning, people all over the world don their uniforms: the professional, the balanced one, the friend who always listens, the highly evolved soul who's moved past pain. But underneath these roles, behind the polished replies and polite nods, something real is suffocating, a quiet dread, a feeling that you're faking your way through your own life. We all carry it. We just hide it well. Carl Jung wasn't afraid to say what most people won't admit. The person you think you are isn't you. What you call your personality might just be the version of yourself that society rewards. A mask, a role, a performance you've been playing so long you forgot it was an act. Jung called it the persona, a necessary disguise, a tool we use to function, to fit in, to be accepted. It helps you become a student, a parent, a partner, a boss. But here's where it gets dangerous. When the mask starts wearing you, when you confuse the performance with your identity, you lose connection with something much deeper. The part of you that still feels alive when nobody's watching. And beneath that mask lives something even more hidden, something you've been taught to deny, avoid, even fear. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow isn't just a metaphor, it's a living force inside you. It holds everything you've rejected: rage, shame, desire, grief, cruelty, jealousy, the versions of you that didn't make the cut. You didn't destroy them, you buried them. But buried things don't die, they wait. They wait in your burnout, your panic attacks, your random explosions, your people-pleasing, your need to control everything, your fear that if anyone ever saw the real you, they'd run. Oscar Wilde told this truth in brutal beauty in The Picture of Dorian Gray. On the outside, Dorian remains stunning, pure, admired. But there's a secret, a painting hidden away, rotting, grotesque, soaking up every lie and sin he commits. His soul turns to poison, and the world never sees it. And that's the deal most people make without realizing it. We sell off pieces of ourselves to protect the image we project. But what you refuse to integrate always returns. Jung said, "No one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You can't fix what you won't face. You can't heal what you won't feel. This is not a video about how to be better liked or more confident. This is a direct invitation to sit with your most uncomfortable truths, the ones you've locked away, the ones even you don't want to admit exist. The persona has become our currency. Smile right, talk right, pose right, and you're in. The more likable the mask, the more applause it gets. But applause doesn't equal connection, and likes won't fill the emptiness you feel when you're alone. The terrifying thing? The persona works. It makes you feel safe. But safety bought with self-denial is a dangerous comfort. You learn young how to wear it. Cry too loud, get shushed. Show anger, get punished. Express fear, get mocked. So you adjust. You sand down the edges, you fake it. Over time, you forget what it felt like to be unfiltered. The world claps for your mask. Meanwhile, your shadow gets heavier. You start confusing perfection with peace. But inside, you're always exhausted, always managing, always watching yourself from the outside. Posture, tone, words, expressions, like you're directing a play called Accept Me. That's not life. That's performance anxiety disguised as personality. And here's the catch. What doesn't fit the mask gets stuffed in the basement of your mind. But that basement isn't sealed. It leaks. You think you've moved on, but the wound is still bleeding, just under different disguises. Sarcasm, coldness, numbness, sabotage, overachievement, addiction. Like Dorian Gray, you might convince the world and yourself that everything's fine, that you're thriving. But the rotting portrait exists, and one day you'll either face it or it will consume you. Have you ever done something that shocked even you? Said something cruel and thought, where the hell did that come from? That's your shadow screaming for recognition. It wants out. The longer you ignore it, the more it drives your life from the back seat. Jung warned, what you do not bring to consciousness appears in your life as fate. Think about that. You're not cursed, you're unconscious. Your biggest fears, your patterns, your toxic loops, they're not accidents, they're symptoms. And still, the shadow seduces you. Because the things we repress don't just scare us, they fascinate us. That's why people repeat the same destructive habits, chase what hurts them, get stuck in cycles they swear they're done with. Pain becomes a pattern, not because you want it, but because you haven't faced what's behind it. When you reject the shadow long enough, it starts showing up in others. Suddenly, everyone else is selfish, arrogant, fake. But what if you're seeing in them what you won't acknowledge in yourself? This is how we end up at war with the world, when the real battle is internal. The Dorian Gray inside you doesn't age, doesn't flinch, doesn't change, but the hidden portrait keeps mutating, and it never stops watching. That's the price of a divided self. This isn't just a literary metaphor. It's a lived reality for millions. Behind the curated posts, the polished smiles, the always positive tone, something festers. A part of you knows you're drifting further from who you really are. And the further you drift, the more the persona demands to be maintained, the more drained you become. But Jung didn't leave us in the dark. He offered a way out, not through denial, not through perfection, through integration. He called it individuation, the process of becoming whole, not better, not more likable, not more positive, whole. This is not self-improvement. It's self-confrontation. It means owning the traits you've repressed. It means naming the desires you've buried. It means staring at your metaphorical portrait and refusing to flinch. It means saying, yes, that's also me. Not to act on every impulse, but to stop pretending they don't exist. Because when you see them clearly, they lose their power to control you. Dorian never did this. He chose destruction over depth. He chose denial over growth. He chose image over truth. And in doing so, he shattered his own soul. But you're not a fictional character. You have a choice. You can begin to meet your shadow, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Because what you've hidden often holds the keys to your authenticity. That rage, it might be the fire you need to set boundaries. That envy, it might be pointing to the life you secretly want, but are too afraid to chase. The things you fear to face are often where your power is hiding. And here's the twist. When you accept the shadow, you don't become more dangerous. You become more safe for yourself and others. Because now you're not acting from blind impulses. You're acting from awareness. You stop projecting. You start integrating. And little by little, you become someone real. Someone who doesn't need applause to feel seen, who doesn't need to pretend to feel whole. This is not a feel-good message. This is a wake-up call. If you live only through your persona, life becomes theater, predictable, flat, empty. You're applauded for the role, but unknown as a person, You're liked but never met. That's the tragedy of many lives today, visible but unseen. But what if you dared to stop performing? What if instead of saying, "I'm fine," you said, "I'm lost"? What if instead of curating a perfect life, you let people see you as you are? Flawed, raw, real? Would you lose people? Maybe, but you'd find yourself. And that is a trade worth everything. Because at the core of Jung's work is this one hard truth. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole. And wholeness requires rupture. It means risking the loss of superficial admiration in exchange for deep inner peace. It means letting go of the character you've perfected to become the human you were meant to be. Not someone adored, someone true. The work of individuation is messy, it's humbling. It means admitting things like, "I'm jealous, I manipulate, I pretend, I judge, I crave control, I hide." But in this brutal honesty, something shifts. You stop being a slave to the persona. You stop outsourcing your worth. You stop fearing rejection because you're finally accepting yourself. And that changes everything. You don't need the mask anymore. You don't need the applause. You don't need to be untouchable, unbreakable, enlightened, flawless. You get to be a person again. And that's the freedom Dorian Gray never had. The freedom to grow, to fail, to age, to evolve. Not a perfect statue of youth, but a living, breathing, becoming human being. So now ask yourself, honestly, quietly, what part of you have you hidden for so long that you've forgotten it's there? What have you pushed into the dark that's still shaping your life from the shadows? You don't need to fix it all today. You just need to start looking. Start by naming it, writing it, owning it. Because the moment you turn toward the shadow, the script starts to change. You stop being the puppet of your past. You stop being the edited version of yourself. You stop being a character. You start becoming a creator of a new identity, a new self, a new life. Carl Jung taught that integration is not a luxury. It's a necessity. The man who faces his own darkness becomes stronger than the man who hides behind his light, because he's not afraid of what's inside. And that's who you can become. Someone unshakable, not because they're perfect, but because they know themselves. Someone authentic, not because they say the right things, but because they've made peace with their contradictions. Someone free, not because they've escaped the shadow, but because they've finally stopped running from it. You came into this world not to impress, not to perform, not to be worshipped. You came to be whole. So close your eyes tonight and ask yourself, what would my life look like if I stopped hiding? Because when you finally decide to look at your own portrait, not the one you show, but the one that's watching, everything begins. If this spoke to something inside you, let it echo. Comment below. Share what resonated. Share what hurt. Share what awakened, even a word. Because sharing is integration. And if you're ready to keep digging deeper, we're just getting started. Subscribe. Stay with us. The next video will challenge you. And that's exactly what transformation demands. You weren't born to wear a mask. You were born to create a masterpiece with all your light, your darkness, your depth, and your truth. And I'll see you there.